all history. I don't even think the sun's interior is not even that hot. It's only 30 million degrees Kelvin. So it's more than above the threshold for a fusion reaction to start. Saturn's is similar in content to the sun, and the same ingredients can produce the result, the ignition of basically the entire body of dense hydrogen. And my particular angle on the phenomenon, Henrik, via synchromysticism, is to pick out patterns in the collective consciousness and pop culture as to why these topics are being talked about at all. You know, the science behind it's not even what is so amazing to me. It's actually that we're talking about it right now. So when the movie Sunshine came out, I was just completely, my eyes just dropped. I could not believe what I was watching, because basically the plot line revolves around a team of scientists they're taking an enormous cuboid atom bomb with hexagon engines to rekindle the dying sun. And of course, the hexagon imagery and the Saturn hexagon are predominant in pop culture right now. They actually make reference to the cube being the size of Manhattan Island. So that pulls it back to the 9/11 event, the cosmic cube symbolism surrounding the whole 9/11 event. So it's just bizarre that just some director would throw that in there without having any conscious motive behind it. And it becomes very interesting. There's also a character in that particular film named Cassie. As you know, the satellite housing the second sun fueling plutonium bomb is called the Cassini satellite. And there's a scene where the main character actually promises Cassie that he's going to fly her to the surface of the sun. So the symbolism is just incredible. They're flying this huge cubic, atom bomb into the heart of the sun. The main character is telling Cassie he's going to fly her to the surface of the sun. So it's just incredible that would be in there. There's another film in the works concerning the Cassini mission right now called Quantum Quest. It's called Quantum Quest, a Cassini Space Odyssey. And what's really curious about that film is that the cast involved is quite bizarre. You have John Travolta, who's a known Scientology guru. Don't get me started on that one. It's a pretty long stretch. You have Sarah Michelle Gellar, who's going to play Alice in Wonderland in the upcoming American McGee Alice. It's a video game I featured in my Halloween special video. She also resonates to White Rabbit because she was in a Stone Temple Pilots video called Sour Girl, and that had a lot of Wonderland-like aesthetics to it. You have our Snakes on a Plane frontman Samuel Jackson, which is, this serpent caduceus wrapped around the plane. He's also going to be in this Cassini kind of cartoon movie. And James Earl Jones, who represents the Lionsgate and serpent, as he was the snake god and leader of the Temple of Set in Conan the Barbarian. So some interesting characters, to say the least, are going to enlighten us about Saturn on the silver screen. Wouldn't you agree?
Definitely. When is? Do you know when this is due for coming out?
This is 2008 sometime. It's still in production, I believe. It's 2008 sometime.
Yeah, it's very interesting to keep an eye on the new movies. There are lots coming out around 2008, 2009. I think they're doing one called I, Lucifer, something like that. And there's, so many more. I'm trying to just it's a full-time job, just keeping up with... This
is what I'm talking about. Yeah. This is going to be never-ending, because movies are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to synchromysticism.
That's right.
I actually have some jotted down that are coming out in 2010 that have some interesting names. I can read those for you. They're kind of bizarre.
Sure.
It's, let's see here. Area 52, The Ark, 2012, The War of Souls. I'm not making this up, I promise. Bond 23, Enter the Phoenix, Guardians of Space and Time, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, which, is laced with this kind of symbolism.
Sure.
New Awakenings, Noah's Ark, another movie about Oz, something called The Passage, and actually a Thundercats movie is coming out. So exactly. I'll never run out of ideas, and even if 10 more people besides Jake and I started making videos on these subjects, we'd never run out of material. It's just incredible, the symbolism that's going on right now. And it all has to coincide with the ascension process that human beings are going through right now. We're being very affected by sort of this galactic summer we're moving into. As we move into Ophiuchus and we move into this kind of galactic alignment of 2012, people are going to start really, having a reawakening, and all this stuff is going to get more and more bizarre and amazing until it comes to the melting point where everybody just has to realize that there's more truth to these phenomenon than leaps to the eye at first.
Absolutely, yeah, I definitely hope so, and we can see it already, and it's about time. Let me say that,
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Why is it taking us so long? thousands and thousands of years, Henrik. And what do we have to offer our population? Go to a football game,
Yeah.
70,000 people packed into a stadium where they drink beer and watch people, attack each other, like in the Coliseum. Is that really what our true potential is? I mean, you would think with 70,000 people in a stadium, there'd be some kind of Socrates-like character at the center telling everybody the secrets of the earth,
Yeah.
And instead we have people throwing around a pig skin and trying to kill each other. It's just absurd.
It is absurd.
And I listened to your interview with Jay Weidner, who I really admire and respect a lot. I think the movies that he's trying to produce are going to be groundbreaking. Like he was talking about the Archons, and he was talking about how they sort of absorb, in a wraith-like fashion, they absorb people's energy. And that goes back to The Dark Crystal. Are you familiar with that film, the Jim Henson movie Dark Crystal?
No, I haven't seen that one, no.
It's really interesting. You should watch it just for the synchronicism inside the film. There's basically a faction of sort of vulture-like reptilian beasts called the Skeksis. And they drain the life force of all the beings in the region through these crystals, and they sort of take the life force that they drain from these creatures, and then they drink it to give themselves longer-lasting life or immortality.
Oops.
And that's sort of like the theme with what I was saying about the sporting events. It's almost like a draining of energy of the human species to make them forget the sovereignty in their blood, the sort of star power in their DNA. So to dumb them down to sort of docile sheep. And they're actually making a sequel to The Dark Crystal, another movie that's coming out that looks really interesting, where it's about the duality of mankind. And there's actually, the plot line has to do with rekindling a dying sun at the center of the planet. So that we go back to Hollow Earth theory once again. It's a never-ending cycle that always comes back. It's like the dragon eating its tail,
Oh, yeah, definitely. Very, very interesting indeed. And it seems to be, again, this convergence of so many different, wills, basically, of where humanity is going to go and where we're going to end up, basically. It seems to be, just as you mentioned now, there's so much more coming out. There's so much more going into the consciousness of so many people, and at the other side of that coin, it also seems to be a kind of a rush towards actually preventing humanity from reaching that point. And what I'm mainly thinking about when I mention that, of course, is everything from microchipping to actually, to some levels, dumbing down people, putting crap in the food, and there's so many different, we're attacked on every front, basically, and what I see is that there is this very strong duality that's probably going to get even stronger and stronger in the years ahead here, towards where we're going to end up and what path we're going to go down. Do you ever see that, do you ever see it that way, that we're in a messy situation in that sense, but we're in a we're potentially in a lot of trouble and we could end up on the wrong path? What's your ideas about that?
Of course, I mean that's just a repetitive theme that we've been up against. That goes back to the Archons and things like that. And you wonder if these Illuminati officials or these people that do all these sort of the Georgia Guidestones, how they want to dumb us down and basically get us down to 500 million on the planet to have a more sustainable environment. But I mean, their means of doing it is by just massacring people. This is so bizarre. I mean, granted, they're taking sort of the yin-yang ulterior motive of human consciousness. The negative energies are sort of needed because there can't be light without darkness. But that's why I don't really look at them as a threat. They're sort of a part of the natural order of things. One system built on another. But it is a challenge, and I think that as human beings evolve, like I said in my time loop video, if we don't do it this time, then we'll have another opportunity to try to overcome these sort of negative parasites that are living amongst us right now. And, it really makes me confused as to how human beings could have sort of this materialistic sense and want to annihilate their fellow man instead of enlighten them. It makes it almost inhuman to me. Like, there's outside ETs or outside transdimensional entities that are actually using these people as parasites to do evil in the world. It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense when I take those kind of extraordinary circumstances out of the equation. When I think that it's just humans doing this to humans and they're preventing us from, going on with our evolution, it really does not make a whole lot of sense. And when I think, God created us in His image, I don't think in biblical terms. I think of a system built upon another system. At a very micro level, you have, quarks and atoms and electrons, and then you have organelles and amoeba, singular cellular organisms, and then human beings, and then you have planets, and then you have stars and solar systems and galaxies and clusters of galaxies, and it seems to go from the micro to the macro, and we really never see the end of it. So it just makes me kind of enraged that we want to stop at this little tiny blue dot and not go on and not proceed, and that there's a force to overcome. But I think that when that force is overcome, that those kind of parasitic entities don't come with it, if you catch my drift. Sure. I believe in reincarnation, and I believe that once human beings kind of reach that level of ascension, if you want to call it a leap to fourth density or, sort of the cocoon to the butterfly that we're all going through right now, the people that are not ready to do this and the people that are kind of possessed by these archons or possessed by these dark entities are not going to come with us. They are simply going to incarnate into another third-dimensional realm, sort of like Earth, and act as the catalyst or preventative measure from making the other people evolve. It's sort of like a big test, honestly. It's a test for us to try to evolve past these parasites. And once we do, and I'm not condemning those people either. I think that they, through their incarnations, they eventually get to go where everybody goes. Because evolution only goes one way. It goes, into from the micro to the macro. So when these people eventually find the error of their ways, and there's every generation of humans that are aligned to this sort of, black sun or this dark entity, they each time have access to the same expansion of the Akashic records as we do. So perhaps they find the error of their ways over time, over the time loop. The more times it repeats, the more people get to advance to the next stage of evolution. And when I was talking about human beings being creator beings, I was serious about that. Granted, we do it on a very small scale here because, honestly, we're just very intelligent apes at this point. But imagine millions of years from now, we could craft universes, we could craft star systems, we would be, I'm not trying to have a God complex, but we would be ultimately gods, we'd be creator beings. And,
we could just potentially look at what could happen in the years to come if we actually take technology into the picture. They can do some really weird stuff, what would look like magic to us, at this point still. But, nanotechnology, we have all kinds of quantum computing, and who knows how the heck and where the heck this might go, and what will happen from that, if a technological singularity is achieved or a kind of a singularity that has to do with enlightenment and creation and, basically inspiration, then, we have no idea at today at what that might look tomorrow,
Well, that's a very good point, Henrik. And you see, it makes very good sense to me why extraterrestrials or other intelligent life don't just fly down here and rescue us, or, tell us the error of our ways. This seems sort of like a gauntlet or an activity we have to put ourselves through to strengthen our spirituality to get to the point where we can be citizens of the universe. That's why sort of UFOs and the whole alien phenomenon, there's a loophole where you can just jump right out of it and not believe it and not think it's tangible. There's always a series of events that lets you kind of take the conservative route and think, okay, well, this is just some kind of collective hallucination or fable that everybody's making up because they need to believe in some kind of higher entity or higher power. And then you have all the stories from ancient Babylon up until now about, ancient religions and the symbolism of UFOs and extraterrestrials in texts, and even in the Bible, it's just saturated with rotating discs and, lights from the sky and ascensions and dissensions. These can all be, misconstrued. They don't have to be literal angels or come from other dimensions, or if they do come from other dimensions, it may just in fact be a consciousness that originally started like ours did. And they just simply did not kill themselves off, did not take the Atlantean route of, having a nuclear holocaust, and they actually just became citizens of the universe, and over millions and millions of years started becoming creator beings, as a conglomerate, as a godhead, as communities of millions of people that have been evolving for millions and millions of years to form a sort of galactic community that has laws, that has order. They can't just fly down here and tell human beings all the secrets of their civilization, because it takes millions of years for us to work up to that point.
Well, exactly. How would it look, and what would we even have learned as a species if someone else comes down at this point and say, oh, we know you're in a lot of trouble, but we're gonna save you from all of that now, so you don't have to do anything, Just sit back, relax, we'll do it for you.
Precisely. And you know what? Inside a human body, the complexity of your brain and your nervous system and the circulatory system and all the cells in your body, that is a universe. You know.